Hi everyone, thank you for joining me today. Today's practice will be a heart-opening practice that encourages more opening across the upper chest and shoulders. Always listen to your body and your breath and find variations as you need to. So begin in a seat and just notice how your shoulders, upper chest, and upper torso feels. Notice the area around your heart. Notice if there's any tightness or tension there. Just pay attention to any sensations you're experiencing so that after the practice, you'll be able to compare your before and after. So let's begin. Reach your arms out and up, and exhale, slowly lower your arms down by your side. Reach your left arm up and come into a side bend over to your right. You might look up or straight ahead, or you might look down. Inhale, come up, lower that arm down, reach your right arm up, and side bend over to your left. Breathe here. Inhale, come back up. You'll need a couple blocks today and maybe a blanket. I have blankets out on my mat too, just to make it a little more cozy today. So we're going to get into a few poses that gets into the shoulders and upper back. We're going to come into either puppy pose or downward dog, so you can sort of feel how your upper back and shoulders are before we get into any stretches. So you might start in table pose and walk your hands forward. You might bring a block just about under your nose. Draw your belly in, take your hips back, and bring your head onto that block. Press into your hands and notice the upper back and shoulders. Notice any tension or tightness. Another option, maybe you decide to come into a down dog. You can make it a short down dog or whatever works for you. Notice how this feels in the upper back and shoulders. Another variation, you can have your hands on blocks, maybe the tall setting. Hips in line with your hips in line with your ankles. Keep your neck long. And upper body is like a down dog position here. So choose one of those poses or anything else that works for you. And notice how your upper back and shoulders feel. And then come on down onto your mat once more. So we're going to get into a shoulder stretch. Position your blocks about shoulder distance apart, knees about hip distance apart, and bring your elbows onto the blocks. Draw your belly in, and then forehead comes to the mat or a blanket, and your hands come towards the upper back or shoulders. If this is too much, you can move your knees forward, maybe even widening them, coming into like a child's pose, and then bring your forehead to the mat. And your hands come behind your head or your upper back if that feels okay. Hips go back slightly. Make sure your hips aren't staying in front of your knees. So find your variation that works best for you. And we'll hold here for a few breaths. Slowly bring yourself up and out of that pose and pause. Notice sensation. Notice how the upper back and shoulders feel. So now we're going to come into a more relaxing heart opener. And the blocks can be positioned something like this, where the block on the low setting closest towards the center of your mat will be for your upper back, and the block nearest the end of your mat for your head. So you want your upper back to be on that block, but your shoulders just over the block, so that your arms and shoulders have room to sort of relax towards the earth. So sit in front of your first block, knees bent, and position yourself so you feel that the edge of the block is just about at your mid-back. One hand behind your head, other hand reaches for that block. Make sure it's where you want it. If you need to, you can adjust it higher or lower, whatever feels best. Arms by your side, maybe a little wider, and make sure it feels like your shoulders have room to just relax. And then from here, straighten one leg out and then the other. And just invite your heart to soften, your shoulders to soften, arms to soften, and notice your breath. You might notice your belly gently rise as you inhale. And as you exhale, notice where you feel that softness, the gentle release. You might imagine your heart is breathing you. As you inhale, feel that expansiveness, as if your breath is starting from your heart and spreading throughout your body. And as you exhale, just softening, gentle release. And we'll stay here for a few more breaths. And then take a nice full inhale. Soft sigh of an exhale, let it go. And then thoughtfully bend one knee and then the other. Bring one hand behind your head and neck, lifting your head, supporting your head with one hand, and then rolling over to one side. Use your hands and arms and press your way back up to a seat. And pause. Notice sensation. Notice how you feel. That's also a very relaxing pose. So now we're going to get into another pose that can encourage a little more openness in the heart. So this one is a low lunge. You might bring your blocks up on the tall setting and step your right foot forward. So you're coming into a low lunge here to start, and then move your blocks back, lengthening through your spine. Tailbone goes towards the mat, shoulders in line with your hips. And then you can keep your right hand on the block nearest your right hip and reach your left arm up. Lengthen through your left side and lift your gaze. Option to bend your left arm and bring your left hand behind your head, supporting your head as you gaze up with a little lift of your heart. Breathe here. And then inhale, straight arm up. Lower that left hand down. Shift your hips back a little bit. You might bring your right hand and block on the inside of that front leg and swing that leg around. And then step your left foot forward. You might start with just coming into that low lunge here with your hands and blocks framing your front foot. And then shift your hips back a little bit, shoulders over your hips. Make sure this feels okay on your knee. Lengthen through your spine. Again, left hand might be close to your left hip on that block. You can also have the hand on your thigh if you prefer. And then lift your right arm up. Maybe lift your gaze. Lengthen through your spine. Option for that right arm to bend and the hand to go behind your head, supporting your head. Maybe looking up a little bit more. Lifting your heart. You'll feel a stretch in your right quad and hip flexor as well. Make sure you feel stable here. Breathe here, looking up maybe to the top of the wall in front of you. And then inhale that right arm up. Lower the hand down. Shift your hips back. Block comes on the inside that front leg and swing that leg around. Set your props aside and again notice how you feel. So now you might want to come back into that down dog and just notice. Maybe you chose puppy pose. Maybe you just come back into puppy. Maybe you see if you can get your forehead closer to the mat or on a lower setting of the block. Or maybe you come into downward dog, traditional down dog or a shorter down dog. Notice how this feels. Taking your heart in the direction of your toes. Or maybe your hands are on the tall setting of the blocks. Hips in line with your ankles in this variation of down dog. Notice any differences. And then make your way back down and pause. We're going to lay down onto our belly. Come into Sphinx pose. Forearms parallel. Elbows under your shoulders. Press into your hands. Engage your upper back and shoulder girdle. And energetically shine your heart forward. Press into your hands and forearms like you're pulling yourself forward on your mat. Breathe here. And then release. Hands under your shoulders. Push up into a cobra. Bhujangasana. And you don't have to come up really high. You might stay low here in baby cobra. Find where it feels good to you. And then lower back down. So now we're going to find a nice heart opener. Don't have a strap out, but you can always get a strap if you need it. Bend one knee. I'm going to bend my right knee and see if I can reach my ankle. So see if you can reach your ankle with that right hand and then bring yourself back into that position, looking straight down. So you might draw that foot towards your glute and feel that stretch in your quad. And then press the foot away from you. You can stay on your left hand here, or you might move props around. You might move that hand a little further forward. You might even straighten that hand to help push yourself up. into an Ardha Dhanurasana, a half bow pose. And then thoughtfully lower down, release. Come back into that Sphinx to start. Bend your left knee. Again, you might move your right hand wherever it feels comfortable. Reach your left hand around for your left ankle. And again, you might draw that foot, the heel closer to your glute, getting a stretch in the quad. And press your left hip, the front of your left hip into the mat to deepen that stretch. And then begin to press your foot away from you. Lift your heart. And again, you might move your right hand a little bit more forward so you can straighten the arm, or you could stay on the forearm. Press your left foot away from you, lifting your heart. Keep your thighs on the mat. Ardha Dhanurasana, half bow. And then slowly lower down, release that foot. Relax in a Makrasana. Just release all that effort. Rest your head on your hands. And then lift your head. Option for locust, Shalabhasana. Bring your arms alongside you. Arms are active, spine is long. Draw your belly away from the mat, belly button away from the mat. Look straight down so the back of your neck is lengthened. Lengthen through your legs and feet, lengthen through your spine, through the crown of your head, and then lift. Legs are active, glutes are active, upper back and shoulder girdle is active, core is active, arms are active, fingers spreading wide, and then release. Relax here. Notice your breath. And then press yourself up, coming into table. You might pause here. And then reach for your blocks. So when we come into camel, you want to keep your tailbone going towards the floor. Avoid any hinging at the hips. So you can have your hands in whatever position feels good to you. My shoulders like this position, with my thumbs just sort of on the 2 points on the low back area. Lifting your heart. You might just stay here. This might be your camel. Invite that sense of openness across your heart. Lengthen out of your spine. And then come back up. Take a break. You might use a block and place it between your ankles and just sit on that block for a moment and pause. So be very mindful with your low back. If it feels like you don't want to go any deeper, then just stay where you are. Come up again. Blocks on either side of your ankles so your hands can have support. You can also tuck your toes and have your fingers on your heels. You can also put a bolster over your legs and have your hands on a bolster. Lots of options. So again, you might start with fingertips on your blocks, lengthen out of your spine. Imagine your heart is energetically shining, energetically reaching up. Hips are pressing forward, lengthening and creating space between all of your vertebrae. Lifting your heart, avoid letting the head fall back. Keep your neck long. Breathe here. Come up thoughtfully and slowly. And again, maybe a block between your ankles. And slowly sit your hips down on that block and pause. Notice sensation. So once you're all done with those back bends, lift your hips, come into a child's pose, lengthening out of your low back. Any variation for your child's pose, you can use a block to support your head if you would like. Maybe your head will comfortably reach the mat, or you can use your hands or fists to support your head. Allowing your low back to get a gentle stretch here, and notice your breath, notice sensation. Soften into your shoulders, soften into your upper back, as well as the lower back. Slowly on your next inhale, bring yourself back up to a seat, and we'll come into a twist. So you might start with your legs out in front of you. Bend your right knee, cross your right foot over your left leg. Keep your left leg active. Right hand goes behind you for support. Left hand might come on the outside of your right knee, or whatever variation feels good to you. Invite a sense of openness across your heart, upper chest lifted, and then twist. Lengthening through your spine. Breathe here. Slowly unwind, and then straighten that right leg out. Pause. Other side. Bend your left knee, cross your left foot over your right leg. Right leg is active, left hand goes behind you for support. Right hand to the outer left knee. Lengthen through your spine, keep that openness across your heart, and then exhale, twist to your left. Inhale, unwind, come back to center, straighten that left leg out, pause. So now it's time for Shavasana. Make sure you feel warm enough, comfortable enough, like you have everything you need. You might use a blanket to cover up with. You could put a blanket under your head or over your hips, whichever feels best. And just make sure you feel comfortable. Notice your breath and soften into your upper back and shoulders. You might have the palms up. Invite your whole body to be heavy and soft, focusing on your heart center, focusing on your breath, and let go. Gently bring your awareness back to being on your mat. Notice your body. Notice your breath. And notice the area around your heart and maybe any energy or sensation there. When you feel ready, begin to make small movements. Wiggle your fingers or toes. Rotate wrists or ankles. And then bend one knee and then the other, drawing your knees in towards your chest, maybe giving yourself a little hug. And then rolling over to one side or the other. Support your head with your bottom arm or a prop. Pause there for a moment. And then press your way back up to a comfortable seat, maybe keeping your eyes closed. And with appreciation for your focus and your awareness, bring your hands together at your heart in Anjali Mudra. The light in me sees and honors the light in each of you. Namaste. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today for this heart-opening practice. Notice how you feel. And from my heart to yours, I wish you a beautiful, heart-filled day, week, month, and year ahead. Thank you, everyone. I'll see you in the next video.